This joint hearing of the Subcommittee on Immigration, Citizenship, Refugees, Border Security, and International Law, as well as the Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties, will come to order. We welcome to this joint hearing all of you. I'd like to thank our witnesses for being here to examine the public safety and civil rights implications of state and local enforcement of the federal immigration laws. This Congress has long recognized the particular threat that immigrant women face in domestic violence. As recognized by Legal Momentum, a respected organization that advocates for the rights of women and girls, beginning in 1994 with the Violence Against Women Act, known as VAWA, Congress created special visas for undocumented women who are being abused by their spouses so that they do not have to live in fear of deportation if they complain to the police about abusive spouses. VAWA was reauthorized in 2000, along with the creation of 2 new visas for undocumented victims of violence, those that suffer from severe forms of human trafficking and those who are helpful in prosecuting crimes. These programs have been repeatedly reauthorized and expanded by Congress over the last decade, including in 2008 with the William Wilberforce Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act to ensure that victims of violence have an opportunity to escape their abusers. Unfortunately, due in part to bad implementation and poor federal supervision, in recent months I've begun to hear story after story of a federal program created by Congress in 1996 that appears to fly in the face of all the work Congress has done to protect victims of violence. This program, known by most as the 287G program, allows the Department of Homeland Security to enter into agreements with state and local law enforcement to deputize them to enforce immigration law. While some may feel that the program is necessary to ensure enforcement of immigration law, everyone should agree that it should be implemented and supervised in an appropriate manner to ensure the public safety and protection of civil rights. Unfortunately, the stories I have been told over the last several months suggest much more needs to be done to make sure that the 281G agreements do not undermine the protection of our communities, victims of violence, or civil rights. Moreover, in just the last 2 years, 60 of 67 287G agreements have been signed despite the fact that this program has been around for almost 13 years. While this recent explosion in interest in 287G agreements, with this explosion, more and more jurisdictions across the nation are enforcing federal immigration laws even without entering into a 287 agreement with DHS. Today we will hear from a witness who has stepped up to tell us disturbing stories of abusive local law enforcement of immigration law regarding people too afraid to tell their own stories for fear of retaliation. Antonio Ramirez of Frederick, Maryland, will tell us of a woman who is afraid to call the police when she is beaten up by her husband because he has threatened to seek her deportation and take their child away from her. She says she is so scared that she simply tolerates the beatings instead of calling the police, who she believes will deport her because of the stories she's heard of the local police enforcing immigration law. The media and attorneys representing Rita Fanny Coate tell us that Ms. Coate's sister called 911 because her sister's boyfriend was choking her. When the police arrived, they had trouble communicating with the victim, so the victim's undocumented sister, Ms. Coate, who had better English skills, offered to help translate. But the police checked everyone's immigration status, and rather than arresting the boyfriend who choked her, they instead arrested Ms. Coate. She had to leave behind her 3 young U.S. citizen children and her U.S. citizen husband and be taken to Lake County Jail, where the Tavares Police Department held her for more than a week. The disturbing stories go beyond victims of domestic violence. One of our witnesses today, Julio Cesar Mora, a U.S. citizen born and raised in Arizona, was on his way to work with his 66-year-old dad, a legal permanent resident who's lived in the U.S. Since the 1960s, when 2 black SUVs with Maricopa County police officers aggressively pulled them over. Without explaining the reason for the stop, the officers told Mr. Mora and his father to get out of their car, and they were handcuffed. They were taken to his father's workplace where an immigration raid was underway. They were held there for several hours until they had the opportunity to explain that they were lawfully present in the U.S. As Mr. Mora explains, to this day, I don't know why the officers stopped us. I don't think it's fair the way we were treated. If this Congress is committed to protecting the public safety in our communities, to protecting victims of crime, and to protecting civil rights, then we are required to examine the effects of state and local law enforcement of immigration law. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today, and I know that they will help us conduct this very important examination. It is important that as we seek to enforce the law, that we also live under the law, and that's what this hearing is about today. I would now recognize